global environment, definition, importance and evolution of its concept. Meanings of environment. The word environment is derived from the French word environ, which means to surround, encircle and enclose. Environment is the surroundings of conditions in which a person, animal or plant lives or operates. The complex of physical, chemical and biotic factors such as climate, soil and living things that act upon an organism or an ecological community and ultimately determine its form and survival. The aggregate of social and cultural conditions that influence the life of an individual or community. Constituent of environment: physical elements, biological elements and cultural elements. Physical elements constitute space, landforms, water bodies, climate, soil, rocks and minerals. These elements determine the variable character of human habitat and also its opportunities and limitations. Biological elements include plant, animal, microorganism and man, whereas cultural elements include economic, social and political conditions which are largely man-made features. Environment, that is physical, biological and cultural, which also encompasses biotic and abiotic factors. Physical factor, that is atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere. Biological factors, these are producer, consumer, decomposer. And cultural factors, that is society, economy and politics. Global environment can be defined as an environment about our nature and the surroundings that influence worldwide scale. An environment could be a desert or a polar land. The global environment encompasses broad worldwide environmental factors that are beyond the scope and control of any country or community. Our planet is facing extraordinary challenges, including climate change, environmental pollution, loss of biodiversity, and the unequal distribution of critical resources. You can see the picture where it is showing the different environmental factors which affect our environment globally. The global environment refers to an environmental factors that impact the entire planet. A global environment, usually referred to as a biome, is a large geographical area characterized by specific plant and animal communities. The 5 major global environmental factors are population growth and demographics, urbanization, economic development, new technological forces, and climate change. See the picture: population, urbanization, economic development, technological forces, and climate change all are encircling our world. Global environmental types. A global environmental type, usually referred to as a biome, is a large geographical area and characterized by specific plant and animal communities. Biomes are usually named after their dominant vegetation type and are determined primarily by climate and geography of a region. So delicate is the interrelationship that any change in one component causes a ripple effect that will alter other components of the biome. You see in the picture the different global biomes, starting from tropical forest, temperate deciduous forest, savanna, temperate grassland, desert, coniferous forest, chaparral, tundra or Arctic region, oceans, polar, and high mountain ice. Now come drivers of global environment. That means which can drive the global environment. Global environmental issue is a phrase that refers to the effect on the climate of human action, in particular the burning of fossil fuel like coal, oil and gas, large-scale deforestation which cause emission into the atmosphere of large amount of greenhouse gases, of which the most important is carbon dioxide. People need to be aware of what types of environmental problem our planet is facing, including a massive influx of natural disaster, warming and cooling periods, different types of weather disaster, warming and cooling periods, different types of weather patterns, much more, that is global climate change, global warming, in case of India, ozone layer depletion, natural disaster, mass conflict and violence, migration, infectious disease, natural environment, air quality, water quality, soil quality, etc. The 5 major drivers of global environment: population, urbanization, economic development, technological forces, and climate change. Population. If other things remain equal, more people will mean a proportionally higher pressure on environment. Rapid population growth can undermine economic development at the national level and is associated at the local level with lower status and opportunities for women. Other things being equal, a larger population means higher consumption, which in the long run puts increased pressure on natural resources. This is in spite of the fact that the short-run effect of a higher population growth rate does not imply a higher growth rate of consumption or resource use. Relationship between higher population growth rate and rate of consumption and resource use. Countries with higher population growth rates are typically also poorer, have lower carbon footprints per capita, and experience slower growths in income per capita. For this reason, increased population does not always lead to the increased consumption or resource use. High inequality and population growth are also inextricably linked. Inequality is a root cause of both rapid population growth and environmental degradation. To moderate population growth in high growth regions, people need access to voluntary family planning and other reproductive health services, as well as to the educational and employment opportunities. Now comes the word demographic dividend. The demographic dividend takes place when the dependency ratio goes down because of lower fertility and the fact that societies have not aged yet. Post-dividend societies are those that are already starting to increase their dependency ratio, led now by older people. Countries going through their demographic dividend, also called the window of demographic opportunity, benefits from increasing number of active age population, that is between 15 to 64 years, decreasing number of young dependents, that is 0 to 14 years, and small numbers of older people, that is 64 years and over. The schematic terms, pre-dividend countries are the poorest, right? Pre-dividend countries are the poorest, early dividends are the low to middle income countries, and the late demographic dividend countries are mostly upper middle income countries. Post-dividend countries are mostly rich countries. Look at this figure. You can find out the pre-demographic dividend, early demographic dividend, late demographic dividend, and post-demographic dividend countries. Here is population growth and fertility rate are also showing in this graph. Emission per capita according to demographics. You can check here that starting from the 2000 to 2015, the metric tons of per capita emission is gradually increasing. Population is also projected is gradually increasing starting from 1950 to 2010, 2020 and gradually up to 2100 years projected world population. Consumption and associated environmental pressure are equally distributed between different nations. Top 10% emitters are basically emitting 45% of world emission. Middle 40% emitters are basically 42% of world emissions, and bottom 50% emitters are basically 13% of world emissions. Urbanization is also another factor which affects the world global environment. A distinct channel through which demographic trends affect environmental resources is through urbanization. The facts about urbanization are well known, right? Urban areas have higher income and consumption, greater access to the political power, higher rates of economic growth, and per capita place a higher pressure on natural resources. On the other hand, cities exhibit greater efficiency in the use of resources per unit of income generated and better potential for energy efficiency. Cities are also engines of economic growth. Trends in urban expansion and density. If you look at this built-up area and population growth, you will find in the last 40 years, built-up area is increased by approximately 2.5 times, whereas in the last 40 years, population increased by 1.8 times. Here we considered the population from 1975 to 2015. Climate change. Climate change has become more than obvious over the past few decades, with 9 years of the decade making it to the list of hottest year of the planet has ever witnessed. The increase of carbon dioxide concentration over the industrial period charted on the same scale as the data of the transmission of carbon dioxide concentration between the glacial and interglacial period over the past 20,000 years is shown in this graph. You see, there is always a fluctuation in carbon dioxide concentration in relation, that is before past, it was almost fluctuating, but there was a very nice trend. But after that, you see sudden rise of carbon dioxide concentration. Other greenhouse gases as methane, nitrous oxide has also a great impact on climate change. Greenhouse gas emission and concentration. There is an unequal distribution of greenhouse gases emission, both in terms of individual emissions coming from the varied life cycle consumption. The richest 10% of the population emits 50% of the total greenhouse gas concentration, while the poorest 50% emit only 10%, which shows the very disparity among the use of greenhouse gases between the rich country and the poor country. At the same time, when the carbon budget for limiting global warming below 2 degrees centigrade is considered, a generational inequality arises, with future greenhouse having a lower allowance limit. Look at this picture. Here it is very clearly shown that from 1960, 1970 and up to the 2015, different countries are showing their emission in case of GHGs by economic region. That is USA, India, China, etc. Emission trends of different countries from 1990 to 2015, which shows China after 2015 its greenhouse gas emission is gradually decreasing, but before that it was increasing very fast. In case of USA, it is depleting. European Union, it is depleting. Russia, it is depleting. Japan, it is slightly rising. In case of India, it is rising, but not at the level of China. Canada, it is almost in plateau level. South Africa is also not very high, and also the other countries. Impact of climate change. Climate change will amplify existing risk and create new risk for the natural and human system. The risks are not only unevenly distributed but are generally greater for disadvantaged people and communities. This is so in countries at all levels of development. The risk of climate change impacts is related to the complex interaction between climate-related hazards and vulnerability, exposure and adaptive capacity of human and natural systems. Already, the annual global mean surface temperature has increased at an average rate of 0.07 degrees centigrade per decade since 1980 and at an average rate of 0.17 degrees centigrade per decade since 1970. Look at this picture, which is showing trends in number of laws relevant natural events related to, that is geophysical events, hydrological events, meteorological events and climatological events. Geological events encompasses earthquake, tsunami, volcanic activity, whereas hydrological events means floods and mass movement. Meteorological events is tropical cyclone, extratropical storm, convection storm and local storm, whereas climatic environments is extreme temperature, drought and forest fire. Global warming is the phenomena of increasing average air temperature near the surface of the earth over the past 1 to 2 centuries. Climate scientists basically have data from the mid-20th century and showing various weather phenomena which is related to the global warming, such as temperature rise, precipitation and storms. These data basically indicate that the earth climate has changed very rapidly over the most conceivable time scale since beginning the geological time. Scientists also agreed that societal, economic and ecological damage would result from the global average temperature rose by more than 2 degrees centigrade, right? This global warming also affects the warming of ocean. With the Earth's atmosphere changing, our ocean surface temperature is also increasing. We know the ocean basically absorbs the heat. And if the global temperature rise, so ocean temperature is also increase. It is almost showing a warming of 0.22 degrees centigrade since 1969. Expansion of the water in the ocean along with melting ice sheet causes the sea level to rise. The distribution of the excess heat in the ocean is uneven, with the greatest ocean warming occurring in the southern hemisphere and contributing to the underground melting of the Antarctic ice, which also increase the sea level, right? Finally, sea warming also threatens marine ecosystem and human livelihood. For example, warm water endangers different sea animal, right? Corals is also affected. Coral bleaching is also going on due to this warming effect. Look at this picture, which is showing the changing in ocean heat, trend in ocean heat from -6 degree to +6 degree. The red color, the red tint you can see from this picture, they are basically very hot zone due to this whole world heat of the ocean surface with NOAA climate government figure. The oceans are getting warmer, which is showing in this graph also. You can see from 1880 to 2020. Another important phenomena is sinking of ice sheet. This is also due to warming. The Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets are basically melting due to warming of the ocean. Right? According to NASA's Gravity Recovery Climate Experiment, it shows that Greenland has lost average 286 billion tons of ice each year. The expansion of the warm water and the melting of the ice sheet causes the sea level to rise, right? The ice is changing everywhere on the earth since 1912, right? The famous snow of Mount Kilimanjaro has melted from more than 80%. The glacier in the Garhwal Himalayas is also retreating. It may impact on our Himalayan environment. Another important phenomena is ozone layer depletion. The ozone layer reduces harmful UV radiation reaching to the Earth's surface from the sun, right? So it acts as a cover for the Earth people and environment. If this layer is depleted, what will happen? Then the UV ray may comes to the Earth and it affects our environment. Ozone layer basically is extended from 15 to 35 kilometers in the lower portion of the Earth atmosphere. It is located in the stratosphere, relatively high concentration of ozone in that layer, right? Ozone layer depletion is gradually thinning of the Earth's ozone layer present in the upper atmosphere. Ozone depletion is also consists of much larger springtime decrease in stratospheric ozone around Earth's polar region, which is referred to as ozone hole. The main cause of ozone layer depletion and the ozone hole is manifold. Chemicals, especially manufactured halocarbon, CFC, HCFC, etc. Natural disaster. It is also another phenomena related to the global environment. It is basically tsunami, earthquake, drought, hurricane, cold wave, etc., which also affect our environment. Mass conflict and violence is also another phenomena which is directly or indirectly related to the global environment. And most of the death is due to this mass conflict in this historical period due to this. Health impact from mass conflict. So people will get less access to the healthcare system due to this mass conflict. People migrate from one area to another area. So these all are directly or indirectly related to the global environmental problem. Infectious disease. This is also another aspect of global environment. This infectious disease also increased in this time due to this global environmental problem. Reduction in natural environment. Global natural environment is gradually decreasing due to overuse of our environment. If we see the global air pollution case, this is also globally increased. Report from World Health Organization shows that ambient environment and air quality is gradually decreasing for human consumption. Water pollution. Water is also polluted due to globally. Starting from chemical contaminant, biological contaminant, radiological contaminants, and thermal contaminants. Soil is another very important aspect of the environment which is also highly polluted by the environmental degradation, right? Land degradation. Land is also degraded due to environmental problem. Land pollution owing to the human activities and desertification due to loss of vegetation has left the surface of the planet unsuitable for human use, right? Loss of biodiversity is also another aspect. Human activity is leading to the loss and extinction of the species and habitats and loss of biodiversity. So, if we see this concept of global environment is changing through time. Pre-industrial revolution, people never cares about the environment. They thought an environment was also not so polluted. So there is no issue of environment at the time. But at the time of industrial revolution, what we look? We look that the industrialists extract environment rampant. They are just basically looting the environment without caring the environmental health of the globe. And after that, at the time of the revolution and the latter period, we talk about the environment, but not inclusive of environment with the industrial revolution. There is a separate thing from the industrial revolution. It is in one side, it is revolution, industrial revolution or industrial growth is going on and environment in other side. There is no convergence. But nowadays, the concept is totally changing. You have to think of environment with this industrial revolution or industrial evolution or any kind of developmental plan. You have to include environment. Otherwise, this environment will get back you in a different way. You will be highly affected with other social, economic, political, as well as your physical problem will be due to the bad impact on the environment.